earth was thin, there existed a civilization whose splendor was unmatched, a civilization known as Sumer. It was here, amidst the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, cradled by the mighty rivers Tigris and Euphrates, that the legends of the Anunnaki were born. These enigmatic beings, worshipped as gods by the ancient Sumerians, have inspired awe, reverence, and speculation for millennia. Were the Anunnaki merely mythical deities, the products of early human imagination? Or were they something far more extraordinary? Perhaps visitors from the stars? The dawn of civilization, Sumer and the birth of the Anunnaki mythos. Long before the pharaohs of Egypt erected their pyramids, before the glory of Greece and the might of Rome, there was Sumer. Emerging around 4500 BCE in the region known today as southern Iraq, Sumer was the cradle of civilization. The Sumerians were pioneers, laying down the foundations of human society with their advancements in writing, law, mathematics, and architecture. Among their many contributions to human culture, one of the most profound was their pantheon of gods, at the heart of which were the Anunnaki. The Sumerian pantheon, a universe of gods and spirits. The Sumerians were deeply spiritual, their worldview teeming with deities, spirits, and cosmic forces. They believed the universe was a reflection of the divine, a grand tapestry woven by the gods. Central to their belief system was the concept of divine kingship, the idea that their rulers were appointed by the gods themselves to maintain cosmic order, or me, on Earth. This divine mandate was a crucial aspect of Sumerian society, binding the people to their rulers and their gods. At the pinnacle of this divine hierarchy were the Anunnaki. The very name Anunnaki is steeped in cosmic significance, derived from the Sumerian words Anu, the sky god, and Naki, prince or noble. It translates to those of royal blood, or offspring of Anu. Anu, the supreme deity of the Sumerian pantheon, ruled the heavens, and his children, the Anunnaki, were believed to be the divine agents who governed the earth and its affairs. The Anunnaki, divine patrons of civilization. The Anunnaki were not a monolithic group, but a collective of deities, each with their own distinct roles and attributes. They were considered the builders of civilization, bestowing upon humanity the gifts of agriculture, metallurgy, writing, and the arts. In Sumerian myths, the Anunnaki were often depicted as towering, radiant beings, exuding an aura of divine power. They were believed to inhabit the Dukug, the holy mountain, or the Ekur, the house of the mountain, where they convened to decide the fate of humanity. Among the most prominent of the Anunnaki were Enlil, the god of wind, air, and storms. Enlil was one of the most powerful and revered deities in the Sumerian pantheon. He was considered the king of the gods, holding the tablets of destiny, which granted him authority over the cosmos. The god of water, wisdom, and creation, Enki was a benevolent figure, often depicted as a savior of humanity. He was said to reside in the subterranean waters, the Abzu, and was associated with knowledge, magic, and the arts of civilization. Inanna, the goddess of love, war, and fertility. Inanna was one of the most complex and influential deities in the Sumerian pantheon. She embodied the duality of life, representing both creation and destruction, love and conflict. Ninus, the mother goddess. Ninhursag was associated with the earth and fertility. She was considered the divine midwife, the one who shaped humanity from clay and breathed life into them. These gods, among others, were believed to be deeply involved in the daily lives of the Sumerians, influencing everything from the rise and fall of kings to the outcome of harvests. Temples dedicated to the Anunnaki were constructed throughout Sumer, serving as centers of worship, cultural activity, and political power. These ziggurats, with their towering structures reaching towards the heavens, were not just architectural marvels, but symbols of humanity's connection to the divine. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the Anunnaki and the Quest for Immortality. One of the most enduring stories from Sumerian literature that highlights the role of the Anunnaki is the Epic of Gilgamesh. This ancient narrative, dating back to the 3rd millennium BCE, tells the tale of Gilgamesh, a historical king of Uruk, and his quest for immortality. Throughout his journey, Gilgamesh encounters various deities, including members of the Anunnaki, who shape his destiny. In the epic, the Anunnaki are depicted as both creators and arbiters of human life. They are responsible for bestowing kingship, a gift from the gods, and for determining the fates of mortals. The story reflects the Sumerian belief in the divine origin of kingship, and the idea that human life is subject to the whims of the gods. The epic also delves into themes of mortality, the quest for eternal life, and the tension between the human and the divine, all central to the Sumerian understanding of existence. The mystical origins of the Anunnaki, gods or visitors from the stars? As the myths of the Anunnaki were passed down through the ages, they began to transcend their origins in Sumerian religion. Over time, the Anunnaki became figures of fascination, not just as ancient gods, but as potential visitors from beyond our world. This idea gained traction in the 20th century, fueled by the advent of modern archaeology, the discovery of ancient texts, and the rise of alternative theories about human origins. Zecharia Sitchin and the ancient astronaut hypothesis. One of the most influential proponents of the idea that the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial visitors was Zecharia Sitchin, an Azerbaijani-born author and researcher. In his book series, The Earth Chronicles, beginning with The 12th Planet, 1976, Sitchin proposed a radical reinterpretation of Sumerian mythology. He argued that the Anunnaki were not gods in the traditional sense, but rather advanced beings from a distant planet called Nibiru. According to Sitchin, Nibiru is a massive planet with an elongated orbit that brings it into the inner solar system approximately every 3,600 years. He suggested that the Anunnaki came to Earth around 450,000 years ago in search of gold, which they needed to repair their planet's atmosphere. Upon arriving on Earth, they established mining operations in southern Africa and eventually genetically engineered Homo sapiens as a slave species to carry out their labor. Sitchin's theories are based on his interpretations of ancient Sumerian texts, particularly the Enuma Elish, the Sumerian creation epic, and other cuneiform inscriptions. He claimed that the descriptions of the Anunnaki in these texts were not metaphorical, but literal accounts of extraterrestrial encounters. Sitchin's work has been both highly influential and controversial, sparking debates among scholars, archaeologists, and UFO enthusiasts alike. The astronomical knowledge of the Sumerians. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Anunnaki mythos is the advanced astronomical knowledge attributed to the Sumerians. Sumerian texts contain detailed descriptions of the solar system, including the planets Uranus and Neptune, celestial bodies that were not officially discovered until the modern era. This knowledge has led some to speculate that the Sumerians could have received their information from an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. For example, in the Sumerian Mul-Apin tablets, which are astronomical compendiums dating back to the 7th century BCE, there are references to celestial bodies that align with our modern understanding of the solar system. Some proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis argue that this knowledge is evidence of contact with the Anunnaki, who may have shared their advanced understanding of the cosmos with the Sumerians. Furthermore, the Sumerians' depiction of the Anunnaki as descending from the heavens has been interpreted by some as a possible reference to space travel. The imagery of winged gods, celestial chariots, and the notion of the Anunnaki as those who from heaven to earth came has fueled speculation about the true nature of these beings. Captured the imagination of many, but it remains a highly controversial theory. Mainstream scholars generally reject the ancient astronaut hypothesis, arguing that the Anunnaki are best understood within the context of Sumerian religion and mythology. They contend that the stories of the Anunnaki are symbolic, reflecting the Sumerians' attempts to explain natural phenomena, human origins, and the structure of their society. Critics of the ancient astronaut theory also point out that Sitchin's interpretations of Sumerian texts are often speculative and not supported by linguistic or archaeological evidence. They argue that the Sumerians, like many ancient cultures, used mythological narratives to convey complex ideas about the world around them, and that these stories should not be taken literally. Anunnaki as extraterrestrial beings persists, weaving together a tapestry of myth, mystery, and modern speculation. Whether viewed as divine entities or visitors from distant stars, the Anunnaki occupy a unique place in the human imagination, embodying our eternal quest to understand the origins of life and the forces that shape our destiny. The Anunnaki and human evolution. a divine intervention. The suggestion that the Anunnaki may have played a role in human evolution is one of the most provocative aspects of the ancient astronaut hypothesis. This idea raises fundamental questions about the nature of humanity, our origins, our purpose, and our relationship with the cosmos. The creation of humanity, myths, and modern interpretations. In the Sumerian creation myths, particularly the Enuma Elish and the Atrahasis epic, the Anunnaki are depicted as instrumental in the creation of mankind. According to these myths, the gods initially created humans to serve them, relieving the Anunnaki of their laborious tasks. The creation of humanity is often attributed to the god Enki, with the help of the mother goddess Ninhursag, who fashioned the first humans from clay and imbued them with life. This narrative of divine creation has been interpreted by some as a metaphorical account of genetic manipulation. Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory suggest that the Anunnaki, as advanced extraterrestrial beings, might have used their technological prowess to alter the DNA of early hominids, creating modern Homo sapiens. This theory posits that the sudden leap in human intelligence, tool-making abilities, and social organization could be the result of such an intervention. Sitchin and others who support this view argue that the biblical story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden parallels the Sumerian creation myths, with the serpent often associated with Enki, representing the imparting of knowledge to humanity. This interpretation suggests that the forbidden fruit may symbolize the awakening of human consciousness, possibly through the intervention of the Anunnaki. Genetic evidence and the search for the Anunnaki's legacy. While the idea of extraterrestrial involvement in human evolution remains speculative, some researchers have looked to genetics for possible evidence. They point to certain anomalies in human DNA, such as the presence of junk DNA, segments of our genome whose function remains largely unknown. Some have proposed that this could be the remnants of genetic manipulation by the Anunnaki, though this theory lacks empirical support within the scientific community. Additionally, the rapid development of early human civilizations, particularly in Sumer, has also been cited as potential evidence of the Anunnaki's influence. The sudden emergence of writing, agriculture, and complex societal structures in Sumer is seen by some as too advanced to have developed naturally in such a short period of time, suggesting possible external guidance. Despite these intriguing theories, mainstream science continues to attribute the rise of human civilization to natural evolutionary processes and the ingenuity of our ancestors. The notion that the Anunnaki, or any extraterrestrial beings, played a direct role in our development remains a topic of debate and speculation, rather than accepted scientific fact. The impact of the Anunnaki on modern culture. Regardless of the veracity of these theories, the Anunnaki have left an indelible mark on modern culture. The idea of ancient gods or extraterrestrial visitors shaping human destiny has permeated literature, film, and popular culture. From science fiction novels to blockbuster movies, the concept of the Anunnaki as alien beings who influenced early human history continues to captivate audiences around the world. In particular, the Anunnaki have become a central theme in various conspiracy theories, where they are often depicted as the true architects of human society, manipulating events from behind the scenes. These ideas, while often speculative and lacking empirical evidence, resonate with those who seek alternative explanations for the mysteries of human history. The fascination with the Anunnaki also reflects broader questions about our place in the universe. Are we alone, or have we been visited by other intelligent beings? What role, if any, did they play in shaping the course of our history? These questions, though unanswered, continue to fuel our curiosity and our search for knowledge. The archaeological evidence, relics of the Anunnaki. The search for physical evidence of the Anunnaki has led to numerous archaeological discoveries, though interpretations of these findings vary widely. From ancient artifacts to monumental structures, the legacy of the Anunnaki, whether as gods or as mythological representations of natural forces, can be seen throughout the ancient Near East. Ziggurats, the sacred mountains of the Anunnaki. One of the most enduring symbols of the Anunnaki's influence is the ziggurat, a massive stepped pyramid structure that served as a temple and a center of worship in ancient Mesopotamia. These towering edifices were believed to be the earthly homes of the gods, particularly the Anunnaki, who were thought to descend from the heavens to interact with humanity. The ziggurat of Ur, dedicated to the moon god Nana, a deity associated with the Anunnaki, is one of the best preserved examples of these structures. Built around 2100 BCE during the reign of King Ur-Nammu, this ziggurat stood as a testament to the power and glory of the gods. The Sumerians believed that by building these structures, they were bridging the gap between heaven and earth, creating a space where the divine could dwell among mortals. Some proponents of the ancient astronaut theory suggest that the ziggurats were not merely religious centers, but could have served as landing sites or communication hubs for the Anunnaki. This idea is largely speculative, but it reflects the enduring mystique surrounding these ancient monuments. Cuneiform tablets, the records of the gods. The Sumerians were among the first to develop a system of writing known as cuneiform, which they used to record everything from commercial transactions to epic poetry. Among the thousands of cuneiform tablets that have been discovered, many contain references to the Anunnaki and their deeds. These texts, which include myths, hymns, and legal documents, provide valuable insights into Sumerian worldview and their relationship with the divine. They describe the Anunnaki as powerful beings who were deeply involved in the affairs of humanity, from the granting of kingship to the determination of human fate. The most famous of these texts is the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic, which recounts the story of how the world was created by the gods, including the Anunnaki. This text, along with others like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Atrahasis epic, has been interpreted by some as historical records, documenting actual events involving the Anunnaki, rather than purely mythological tales. Artifacts and symbolism. Traces of the Anunnaki. Numerous artifacts have been unearthed in ancient Mesopotamian sites that bear the symbols and images associated with the Anunnaki. These include statues, carvings, and seals depicting the gods in various forms. The Anunnaki are often shown as majestic, winged figures, sometimes holding objects that some interpret as technological devices, further fueling speculation about their extraterrestrial origins. One notable artifact is the so-called Baghdad Battery, a set of clay jars dating back to the Parthian period, around 150 BCE, that some believe could have been used as primitive batteries. Although the connection to the Anunnaki is speculative, this artifact is often cited in discussions of ancient technology and the possibility of advanced knowledge in antiquity. Another intriguing find is the cylinder seal VA-243, which depicts a figure surrounded by symbols that some interpret as a representation of the solar system, complete with the planets known to us today. This artifact has been used by proponents of the ancient astronaut theory to argue that the Sumerians had advanced astronomical knowledge, possibly imparted by the Anunnaki. While mainstream archaeologists interpret these artifacts within the context of Sumerian culture and religion, they remain a focal point for those who believe in the possibility of ancient extraterrestrial contact. The legacy of the Anunnaki, from myth to modernity. The story of the Anunnaki is not just a tale of ancient gods and myths. It is a narrative that continues to evolve and resonate in the modern world. From the earliest records of Sumerian civilization to contemporary debates about human origins and extraterrestrial life, the Anunnaki have remained a powerful symbol of the unknown, a bridge between the past and the present, between mythology and science. In the dawn of human consciousness, when the night sky was a canvas for gods and spirits, and the earth was a cradle of divine mysteries, there existed a civilization that looked to the stars with a sense of awe and reverence. This was the world of the ancient Sumerians, a people whose legends would echo through the ages, carrying with them the whispers of celestial beings known as the Anunnaki. These tales, laden with spiritual wisdom, astronomical knowledge, and profound existential questions, form the bedrock of a narrative that bridges the gap between myth and reality. A narrative that invites us to explore the very origins of humanity, the forces that shaped our world, and the possibility that our ancestors were visited by beings from beyond the stars. As we journey through the rich tapestry of Sumerian mythology, we will delve into the Anunnaki creation theory, unravel the mysteries of the Epic of Gilgamesh, explore the Sumerian flood myth and the enigmatic Tower of Babel, and examine the ancient astronaut hypothesis that suggests a connection between the Anunnaki and extraterrestrial visitors. We will also sift through the archaeological, historical, and astronomical evidence that may hint at the reality behind these ancient legends. Join me now as we step back into a time when the line between the divine and the human was thin, and the mysteries of the universe were etched in the stars. The Anunnaki creation theory, origins of humanity and the gods. 1. The birth of the gods, Sumerian cosmogony. In the beginning, there was chaos, a formless void from which the cosmos would emerge. The Sumerians believed that the universe was born from the interplay of primordial forces, personified as deities who shaped the world and everything in it. At the heart of this cosmic drama was the god Anu, the sky god, who ruled over the heavens with supreme authority. From his divine essence sprang forth the Anunnaki, a group of deities who would play a central role in the creation of humanity and the establishment of civilization. The name Anunnaki itself is steeped in meaning, derived from the Sumerian words Anu, the sky god, and Naki, prince or noble, indicating their divine lineage. These gods were believed to have descended from the heavens to earth, bringing with them the gifts of knowledge, technology, and order. They were the architects of the cosmos, the divine beings who set the stars in their courses and established the natural laws that govern the universe. According to Sumerian cosmogony, the earth was formed by the god Enlil, who separated the heavens from the earth and created the land from the primordial sea. Enlil, the god of air and storms, was one of the most powerful deities in the Sumerian pantheon. He was responsible for the creation of the world as we know it, shaping the mountains, rivers, and plains that would become the cradle of human civilization. The Anunnaki were not merely passive observers of the world they had created. They were deeply involved in the affairs of the earth and its inhabitants. They were the custodians of the natural order, ensuring that the seasons changed, the rivers flowed, and the crops grew. But they were also the architects of humanity, playing a direct role in the creation of mankind, a creation that would forever bind the fate of humans to the will of the gods. 2. The creation of humanity, clay, blood, and divine breath. The Sumerian creation myths tell a story of gods and men, intertwined in a complex relationship of creation and servitude. According to the Enuma Elish and the Atrahasis epic, humanity was created by the gods as a solution to a divine problem. The Anunnaki, tasked with maintaining the earth, grew weary of their labor. They toiled in the creation of the world, digging canals, building cities, and tending to the needs of the earth. Over time, they became exhausted and rebellious, demanding relief from their burdens. In response to this crisis, the god Enki, known for his wisdom and cunning, proposed a radical solution: the creation of a new being, fashioned from clay and imbued with the essence of the gods, to take on the tasks of the Anunnaki. Thus, humanity was born, not as an independent species, but as a servant race, created to labor for the gods. The process of creation was a sacred act, one that involved the collaboration of several deities. Ninhursag, the mother goddess, shaped the first humans from the clay of the earth, while Enki infused them with the divine spark, the breath of life. In some versions of the myth, the blood of a sacrificed god, often identified as the rebellious god Kingu, was mixed with the clay, giving humanity a divine yet troubled heritage. This act of creation was not merely a biological event, but a deeply spiritual and symbolic one. The mixing of clay and blood represented the union of the earthly and the divine, while the breath of life symbolized the infusion of divine consciousness into the human form. Humanity, in the Sumerian view, was both of the earth and of the heavens, a creature of clay animated by the essence of the gods. Yet, this creation was not without its consequences. The newly formed humans were bound to the will of the gods, tasked with toiling in the fields, building cities, and offering sacrifices to their divine masters. This relationship between humans and gods was one of dependency and reverence, but also of tension and rebellion, a theme that would recur throughout Sumerian mythology and resonate in the stories of later cultures. 3. The fall of man, the myth of Enki and the loss of innocence. The creation of humanity in Sumerian mythology is also closely tied to the theme of the loss of innocence and the acquisition of knowledge, an idea that echoes in the mythologies of many cultures. One of the most important figures in this narrative is the god Enki, who, despite his role in the creation of humanity, also becomes the protector and benefactor of mankind. Enki, the god of water, wisdom, and magic, was a complex and ambivalent deity. He was both a creator and a trickster, a god who could both give and take away. In the Sumerian myths, Enki is often depicted as a friend of humanity, a god who defies the will of the other gods to bring knowledge and civilization to humans. One of the most significant myths involving Enki is the story of Adapa, often considered the Sumerian precursor to the biblical Adam. In this tale, Adapa, a priest of Enki, is granted wisdom. A tension between the gods' desire to control humanity and their occasional willingness to grant them divine knowledge. The myth of Enki and Adapa also introduces the idea of a fall from a state of divine favor, a theme that would later be echoed in the story of the Garden of Eden. Adapa's refusal of the bread and water of life on the advice of Enki results in the loss of immortality for humanity. This act of defiance, whether by Adapa or by Enki, represents a pivotal moment in the relationship between gods and men, a moment when humanity gains knowledge but loses its divine innocence. This loss of innocence and the subsequent struggle to reclaim it is a recurring theme in Sumerian mythology. It reflects the Sumerians' understanding of the human condition as one of inherent conflict between knowledge and ignorance, freedom and servitude, the earthly and the divine. It also foreshadows the great epics and myths that would arise in later cultures as humanity continued to grapple with its place in the cosmos. T. Gilgamesh mythology, the quest for immortality and the reality of kingship. 1. The Epic of Gilgamesh, a journey through the mystical and the mortal. The Epic of Gilgamesh is one of the oldest and most profound narratives in human history, a story that transcends time and place to explore the universal themes of life, death, friendship, and the quest for immortality. At the heart of this epic is Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk, a historical figure who lived around 2700 BCE and whose exploits were immortalized in poetry and legend. The epic begins with a description of Gilgamesh as a tyrant, a ruler whose divine heritage and unmatched strength set him apart from ordinary men. Gilgamesh is 2/3 divine and 1/3 human, a being caught between the realms of the gods and the world of men. His divine nature grants him extraordinary powers, but it also isolates him from his people, leading to a reign of fear and oppression. The gods, concerned with Gilgamesh's behavior, create Enkidu, a wild man of the steppe, to challenge and ultimately temper the king's excesses. Enkidu, a creature of the wilderness, represents the untamed natural world, a world that stands in contrast to the ordered civilization of Uruk. The encounter between Gilgamesh and Enkidu is a clash of opposites, but it also becomes the foundation of a deep and transformative friendship. The friendship between Gilgamesh and Enkidu is central to the epic, and it is through their bond that Gilgamesh begins to understand the true nature of kingship and humanity. Together, they embark on a series of adventures, including the slaying of the monster Humbaba and the killing of the Bull of Heaven, deeds that earn them fame, but also incur the wrath of the gods. Number 2, the death of Enkidu, the turning point in the epic. The turning point of the Epic of Gilgamesh comes with the death of Enkidu, a consequence of their defiance of the gods. Enkidu's death plunges Gilgamesh into a profound existential crisis. The loss of his closest companion, someone he came to love as a brother, forces Gilgamesh to confront his own mortality for the first time. Enkidu's death is not just a personal tragedy for Gilgamesh. It is a stark reminder of the impermanence of life, even for one as powerful as he. This event becomes the catalyst for Gilgamesh's quest for immortality, a quest that takes him to the ends of the earth and into the realms of the mystical and the divine. 3. The quest for immortality, a journey into the unknown. Driven by grief and fear, Gilgamesh sets out on a journey to find Utnapishtim, the only human being who has been granted eternal life by the gods. Utnapishtim, who survived a great flood that wiped out humanity, now lives in a distant, unreachable place beyond the boundaries of the known world. The journey to find Utnapishtim is fraught with dangers and challenges, each one pushing Gilgamesh closer to the brink of despair. On his journey, Gilgamesh encounters various mystical figures and entities, including Siduri, the tavern keeper, who advises him to abandon his quest and embrace the simple pleasures of life. She tells him that the gods have reserved immortality for themselves, and that mortals should find contentment in the life they have. But Gilgamesh, consumed by his fear of death, refuses to give up. Finally, Gilgamesh reaches the waters of death, a barrier that separates the world of the living from the realm of the immortal. He crosses these waters with the help of Urshanabi, the ferryman, and eventually comes face to face with Utnapishtim. It is here that Gilgamesh learns the story of the Great Flood, a story that bears striking similarities to the biblical tale of Noah. And 4. The Sumerian flood myth, echoes of a cataclysm. The story of the flood, as told by Utnapishtim, is one of the most significant and enduring myths in Sumerian literature. According to the myth, the gods became disillusioned with humanity and decided to send a great flood to destroy all life on Earth. But Enki, the god of wisdom, warned Utnapishtim and instructed him to build a massive boat to save himself, his family, and the seeds of all living creatures. Utnapishtim obeyed the god's command and built the boat, surviving the flood that wiped out the rest of humanity. As a reward for his obedience and piety, the gods granted Utnapishtim and his wife eternal life, making them the only humans to achieve immortality. This flood myth is remarkably similar to the story of Noah's Ark in the Bible, leading some scholars to believe that the biblical account may have been influenced by earlier Mesopotamian traditions. The myth also raises questions about the relationship between the gods and humanity, and the reasons behind the divine decision to destroy and then repopulate the earth. For Gilgamesh, the flood story is both inspiring and disheartening. While it confirms that immortality is possible, it also makes it clear that such a gift is beyond the reach of ordinary mortals. Utnapishtim himself tells Gilgamesh that the secret of eternal life is not something that can be achieved through effort or desire. It is a rare and divine gift, bestowed only in exceptional circumstances. The bitter lesson, the acceptance of mortality. In the end, Gilgamesh fails in his quest for immortality. Even after he obtains the plant of life, a magical herb that could restore his youth, he loses it to a serpent while resting on his journey back to Ura. This loss symbolizes the inescapable nature of death and the futility of trying to avoid it. The epic concludes with Gilgamesh returning to Uruk, where he comes to terms with his mortality. He realizes that while he cannot live forever, he can achieve a form of immortality through his deeds and the legacy he leaves behind. Gilgamesh's transformation from a tyrant to a wise and compassionate ruler is his true triumph, and it is through this change that he finds peace. The Epic of Gilgamesh, with its blend of historical reality and mythological grandeur, offers a deep reflection on the human condition. It explores the universal themes of friendship, loss, the search for meaning, and the acceptance of life's inevitable end. Through Gilgamesh's journey, the ancient Sumerians expressed their understanding of the world, a world where the line between the divine and the mortal was ever present, and where the search for immortality was ultimately a journey inward towards self-knowledge and wisdom. Pair 3. The Sumerian Flood Myth and the Tower of Babel, Divine Wrath and Human Ambition. 1. The Sumerian Flood Myth, a tale of destruction and renewal. The Sumerian Flood Myth, as recounted in the Epic of Gilgamesh and other ancient texts, is one of the most powerful stories of divine retribution and human survival. It speaks to the Sumerians' deep understanding of the forces of nature and their belief in the gods' ultimate control over the fate of the world, the peace of the divine realm. This decision reflects the Sumerian belief in the delicate balance between the gods and humans, a balance that, when disrupted, could lead to catastrophic consequences. Enki, who had always been a protector of humanity, defies the other gods by revealing their plan to Utnapishtim. This act of defiance is typical of Enki, who often intervenes on behalf of humans. Gods are both creators and destroyers, capable of great compassion and great wrath. The flood itself is described as a massive deluge that sweeps away everything in its path. For 7 days and 7 nights, the waters rise, covering the earth and wiping out all life. Utnapishtim and his family, however, are saved by their faith and obedience to the divine command. After the floodwaters recede, Utnapishtim offers a sacrifice to the gods, who are pleased and repentant for their actions. As a result, the gods bless Utnapishtim with eternal life, marking the end of the flood myth and the beginning of a new era for humanity. 2. The Tower of Babel. The limits of human ambition. The story of the Tower of Babel, while best known from the Bible, also has roots in Sumerian and Mesopotamian mythology. It represents the ultimate expression of human ambition, the desire to reach the heavens and challenge the gods. In the Sumerian version of the story, the people of ancient Mesopotamia, driven by pride and a desire for unity, decide to build a massive tower that will reach the sky. The tower, known as Anunnaki, was a ziggurat dedicated to the god Marduk in the city of Babylon. Its construction was a monumental effort, symbolizing the technological and architectural achievements of the ancient Mesopotamians. However, the project was also seen as an act of hubris, a challenge to the natural order established by the gods. The gods, angered by the arrogance of humanity, decide to intervene. They confound the speech of the builders, causing them to speak different languages, and scatter them across the earth. The tower is left unfinished, a symbol of the limitations of human ambition and the consequences of defying the divine will. The Tower of Babel myth, like the flood story, reflects the Sumerians' understanding of the relationship between humans and the gods. It serves as a warning against pride and the overreaching of human ambition. At the same time, it acknowledges the potential for human achievement, even as it underscores the ultimate authority of the divine. The Anunnaki and the ancient astronaut hypothesis, a connection beyond the stars? 1. The ancient astronaut hypothesis, extraterrestrial visitors or mythical beings? In the mid-20th century, a new interpretation of the Anunnaki began to take shape, one that connected these ancient gods with the possibility of extraterrestrial contact. The ancient astronaut hypothesis, popularized by authors like Zecharia Sitchin and Erich von Däniken, suggests that the Anunnaki were not gods in the traditional sense, but rather advanced beings from another planet who visited Earth in the distant past. Sitchin, in particular, argued that the Anunnaki came from a planet called Nibiru, which he claimed was on a long, elliptical orbit around the Sun. According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki arrived on Earth around 450,000 years ago in search of gold, which they needed to sustain their civilization. He proposed that the Anunnaki genetically engineered early hominids to create a slave race, humans, to mine this gold, thereby jump-starting human civilization. Sitchin's theories are based on his interpretations of Sumerian texts, particularly the Enuma Elish and other ancient myths. He claimed that these texts contain descriptions of advanced technology, including space travel, genetic engineering, and nuclear weapons. While mainstream scholars and archaeologists have largely dismissed Sitchin's interpretations as speculative and unsupported by evidence, his ideas have gained a significant following among those who believe in the possibility of ancient extraterrestrial contact. 2. Astronomical knowledge in Sumerian texts, evidence of alien influence? One of the most intriguing aspects of the ancient astronaut hypothesis is the suggestion that the Sumerians possessed advanced astronomical knowledge, which might have been imparted by the Anunnaki or other extraterrestrial beings. This hypothesis is fueled by the presence of detailed astronomical information in ancient Sumerian texts, which, according to some interpretations, exceeds what should have been possible given the technological capabilities of the time. Number 3. The Mol-Apin Tablets and Celestial Knowledge. The Mol-Apin Tablets, a collection of ancient astronomical records, are often cited as evidence of the Sumerians' advanced knowledge of the heavens. These tablets, dating back to around the 7th century BCE, contain detailed observations of the stars, planets, and other celestial phenomena. They describe the movements of the sun, moon, and planets across the sky, as well as the fixed positions of constellations. What is particularly striking about the Mol-Apin tablets is the accuracy with which they describe the planets Uranus and Neptune, celestial bodies that were not officially discovered by modern astronomy until the 18th and 19th centuries, respectively. This has led some proponents of the ancient astronaut theory to argue that such knowledge could only have been obtained through direct contact with an advanced civilization, possibly the Anunnaki. Skeptics, however, point out that the Sumerians' knowledge of the heavens can be explained by their careful observations over many generations, as well as their deep spiritual connection to the cosmos. They argue that while the Sumerians were indeed skilled astronomers, there is no need to invoke extraterrestrial influence to explain their achievements. The cylinder seal VA-243 and the solar system. Another piece of evidence often cited by proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis is the cylinder seal VA-243, an ancient Sumerian artifact that some claim depicts the solar system. This small cylinder seal, which dates back to the Akkadian period, around 2400 to 2200 BCE, shows a central figure surrounded by what appear to be celestial bodies. Supporters of the ancient astronaut theory, including Zecharia Sitchin, have interpreted this seal as a representation of the solar system, complete with the sun at the center and all known planets orbiting around it. Remarkably, the seal seems to depict not only the inner planets visible to the naked eye, but also the outer planets, including Uranus, Neptune, and a mysterious additional planet, presumed by Sitchin to be Nibiru, the home of the Anunnaki. Critics, however, argue that this interpretation is highly speculative. Mainstream archaeologists and historians contend that the symbols on the cylinder seal are not a representation of the solar system, but rather a series of abstract symbols that likely have no astronomical significance. They caution against reading too much into a single artifact, especially one that is open to multiple interpretations. Havre 5. The Baghdad Battery. Ancient technology or modern misinterpretation. The so-called Baghdad Battery is another artifact often linked to theories of advanced ancient technology. Discovered near Baghdad, Iraq, in 1936, this artifact consists of a small clay jar containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod. Some researchers have speculated that it might have been used as a primitive electrical battery, possibly for electroplating or other purposes. Proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis have seized on the Baghdad Battery as evidence that the Sumerians, or their descendants, possessed advanced technological knowledge far beyond what is commonly assumed. They suggest that this technology could have been taught to them by the Anunnaki or other extraterrestrial beings. However, the true purpose of the Baghdad Battery remains a subject of debate. Mainstream scholars suggest that it might have been used for simple chemical reactions, such as generating a small amount of electricity through the combination of an acidic liquid, like vinegar, with the metal components. While intriguing, there is no conclusive evidence to support the idea that the Baghdad Battery was part of a more advanced technological system. 6. The Tower of Babel Revisited. A technological or spiritual undertaking. The story of the Tower of Babel, with its themes of human ambition and divine intervention, has also been reinterpreted through the lens of the ancient astronaut hypothesis. Some theorists suggest that the tower was not merely a symbolic representation of human pride, but could have been an actual technological undertaking, perhaps an attempt to construct a large structure or even a communication device capable of reaching the Anunnaki, or a deliberate attempt to prevent humanity from achieving a certain level of technological advancement. This idea ties into broader theories that suggest the Anunnaki, or other extraterrestrial beings, have intervened at various points in human history to either accelerate or limit our technological development. While these ideas are compelling, they remain speculative and are not widely accepted by mainstream historians or archaeologists. Most scholars continue to view the Tower of Babel as a mythological story that reflects ancient concerns about the limits of human ambition and the importance of humility in the face of the divine. V. Archaeological evidence of the Anunnaki, tracing the footprints of the gods. The search for concrete archaeological evidence of the Anunnaki has been a quest filled with both remarkable discoveries and controversial interpretations. While there is no definitive proof that the Anunnaki were real beings, there are several intriguing sites and artifacts that have been linked to their legend. These include ancient temples, megalithic structures, and mysterious artifacts that continue to fuel debate among scholars and enthusiasts alike. Number 1. The ziggurats of Mesopotamia. Temples to the gods or ancient spaceports. Ziggurats, the massive terraced structures that dotted the landscape of ancient Mesopotamia, are some of the most iconic and enigmatic remnants of Sumerian civilization. These structures, which served as temples and administrative centers, were dedicated to the gods, particularly the Anunnaki. The most famous of these is the ziggurat of Ur, built in honor of the moon god Nana. Ziggurats were designed to be the earthly homes of the gods, with their elevated platforms symbolizing a connection between the heavens and the earth. The step-like design of these structures allowed the priests and rulers to ascend to the temple at the top, where they could commune with the gods and perform sacred rituals. Some proponents of the ancient astronaut theory have speculated that ziggurats might have served a more practical purpose, possibly as landing sites or platforms for the Anunnaki's spacecraft. They point to the scale and precision of these structures as evidence that they were designed with advanced technology in mind. However, mainstream scholars interpret ziggurats as purely religious and ceremonial structures, reflecting the Sumerians' deep spiritual connection to their gods. The idea that they were used as spaceports is intriguing, but remains speculative, lacking direct evidence to support such a claim. 2. The cuneiform tablets, written records of the gods? The discovery of thousands of cuneiform tablets across Mesopotamia has provided a wealth of information about the ancient Sumerians, including their mythology, laws, and daily lives. Among these tablets are numerous references to the Anunnaki, offering insights into how these gods were perceived and worshipped. One of the most significant finds is the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic, which describes the cosmic battles and divine order established by the gods, including the Anunnaki. This text, along with other myths and hymns, paints a picture of a pantheon of gods who were deeply involved in the creation and governance of the world. While the majority of scholars view these texts as mythological, some proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis interpret them as historical records, documenting actual events and interactions between humans and extraterrestrial beings. This interpretation suggests that the gods described in these texts were not merely figments of the Sumerians' imagination, but real beings who influenced the course of human history. 3. The ruins of Eridu, the first city and the abode of Enki Eridu, often considered the oldest city in the world, holds a special place in Sumerian mythology and history. According to legend, Eridu was the first city established by the gods, specifically by Enki, the god of wisdom and water. It was believed to be the home of Enki and the birthplace of civilization. The archaeological site of Eridu reveals a series of ancient temples dedicated to Enki, dating back to around 5400 BCE. These temples were built atop one another over the centuries, reflecting the city's long and continuous occupation. The remains of these structures, particularly the Abzu, the temple of Enki, provide a glimpse into the spiritual and cultural life of the early Sumerians. Some researchers suggest that Eridu may have been more than just a religious center. It could have been a place where the Anunnaki, or their human representatives, first established their presence on Earth. The city's association with Enki, a god often depicted as a benefactor of humanity, adds to the mystique of Eridu as a possible site of ancient extraterrestrial contact. 4. The Giza Plateau, anomalous structures and astronomical alignments. While the Anunnaki are primarily associated with Mesopotamia, some theorists have expanded their influence to include other ancient sites, such as the Giza Plateau in Egypt. The pyramids of Giza, with their precise alignments and massive scale, have long been the subject of speculation and wonder. The Great Pyramid, in particular, has been linked to various astronomical alignments, including its orientation to true north and its possible alignment with the constellation Orion. Some researchers have suggested that the pyramids could have been designed by or with the help of the Anunnaki, given the similarities in their monumental architecture and the shared emphasis on the heavens. This theory is part of a broader trend in alternative archaeology, which seeks to find connections between ancient civilizations and propose that they may have been influenced by a common source, possibly extraterrestrial. Proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis suggest that the Giza pyramids' precision and complexity are beyond the capabilities of the ancient Egyptians alone, and may indicate the involvement of advanced beings, possibly the Anunnaki. They argue that the alignment of the pyramids with the stars, particularly Orion's belt, is too exact to be coincidental, proposing that these structures were built not just as tombs, but as part of a larger cosmic design, possibly serving as markers or beacons for extraterrestrial visitors.
Called King's Chamber, and the mysterious shafts that align with specific stars have fueled speculation about their purpose. Some theorists propose that the pyramids were energy generators or communication devices, possibly designed by or with the assistance of the Anunnaki to interact with their celestial counterparts. However, mainstream Egyptologists attribute the construction of the pyramids to the advanced engineering skills of the ancient Egyptians. They argue that the alignments with celestial bodies reflect the Egyptians' deep religious and cultural connection to the stars, particularly their belief in the afterlife and the journey of the soul through the cosmos. The precision of the pyramids, they contend, is a testament to the ingenuity and labor of thousands of workers over many years, rather than evidence of extraterrestrial influence. One of the most remarkable archaeological discoveries in recent years is Göbekli Tepe, an ancient site in southeastern Turkey, often referred to as the world's oldest temple. Dated to around 9600 BCE, Göbekli Tepe predates Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids by several millennia, and its construction challenges our understanding of prehistoric societies. The site consists of massive stone pillars arranged in circular formations, some of which are intricately carved with depictions of animals and abstract symbols. The purpose of Göbekli Tepe remains a mystery, but its sophistication suggests that it was a center for religious or ceremonial activities, possibly involving early forms of worship or ritualistic practices. Some researchers have speculated that Göbekli Tepe might be linked to the Anunnaki or other ancient extraterrestrial visitors. The site's age and complexity seem to imply that a more advanced culture existed at the time, one capable of organizing and constructing such monumental architecture. Proponents of this theory suggest that the knowledge required to build Göbekli Tepe could have been harnessed by the Anunnaki, who may have interacted with or even guided these early humans. Critics of this view argue that Göbekli Tepe's builders were highly capable hunter-gatherers who, through social cooperation and innovation, were able to create a sophisticated society. They see the site as evidence of the human capacity for cultural and technological development, rather than the influence of extraterrestrial beings. Pumapunku, part of the ancient city of Tiwanaku in modern-day Bolivia, is another site often cited by those who believe in the ancient astronaut hypothesis. Pumapunku is renowned for its finely crafted stone blocks, some weighing several tons, which are cut with remarkable precision and assembled without mortar. The site's construction techniques and the sheer scale of the stonework have led to widespread speculation about the origins of this technology. Supporters of the ancient astronaut theory argue that Pumapunku's builders had access to advanced technology, possibly provided by the Anunnaki or another extraterrestrial civilization. They point to the perfectly straight cuts, drilled holes, and interlocking stones as evidence that ancient humans could not have achieved such precision without modern tools or external assistance. Mainstream archaeologists, however, maintain that the people of Tiwanaku were skilled stonemasons who used simple but effective techniques to carve and shape the stone. They suggest that the precision seen at Pumapunku can be explained by careful planning, craftsmanship, and the use of tools that, while rudimentary by today's standards, were sufficient for the tasks at hand. 7. The Nazca Lines, messages to the gods or landing strips. The Nazca Lines, a series of large geoglyphs etched into the desert floor of southern Peru, have long intrigued archaeologists and researchers. Created by the Nazca culture between 500 BCE and 500 CE, these enormous drawings depict various animals, plants, and geometric shapes and can only be fully appreciated from the air. Some theorists suggest that the Nazca Lines could have been created as messages to, or markers for, the Anunnaki or other extraterrestrial visitors. The idea is that these massive figures were meant to be seen from above, possibly from spacecraft, and might have served as navigation aids or landing strips for these beings. Skeptics of this theory argue that the Nazca Lines were likely part of religious or ceremonial practices, perhaps related to water rituals or astronomy. The ability to create these large-scale figures, they suggest, demonstrates the ingenuity and religious dedication of the Nazca people, rather than evidence of contact with advanced beings. 8. The Sumerian King List, records of long-lived rulers or mythical figures. The Sumerian King List is one of the most enigmatic documents from ancient Mesopotamia, offering a tantalizing glimpse into the early history and mythology of the Sumerians. This ancient text, written in cuneiform on clay tablets, lists the names of kings who ruled over Sumer, detailing their reigns and the cities they governed. However, what makes the Sumerian king list so mysterious is not just its historical content, but the astonishing claims it makes about the lengths of these reigns and the events that punctuate them. 1. Pre-Diluvian kings and their incredible reigns. One of the most striking aspects of the Sumerian king list is its account of kings who reigned before the Great Flood, a cataclysmic event that echoes the biblical story of Noah. According to the list, these pre-Diluvian kings ruled for extraordinarily long periods, with some reigns lasting tens of thousands of years. For example, Alulim, the first king of Eridu, is said to have ruled for 28,800 years, while his successor, Alongar, reigned for 36,000 years. These immense figures have puzzled scholars and fueled speculation about their meaning. Some suggest that these long reigns could be symbolic, representing the mythological golden age when gods and demigods walked the earth, or they could reflect an ancient system of counting that we no longer understand. Others, particularly those who support alternative histories or ancient astronaut theories, propose that these kings were not entirely human and may have had lifespans far beyond our own, possibly due to their divine or extraterrestrial nature. The flood and the resetting of kingship. The Sumerian king list also includes a dramatic narrative shift with the account of the Great Flood, an event that marks the end of the pre-Diluvian kings and the beginning of a new era of human rulers. After the flood, kingship is said to have been lowered from heaven once more, establishing the rule of a new line of kings with much shorter, more realistic reigns. This reset in kingship raises intriguing questions about the Sumerians' understanding of their own history. The flood, which is also mentioned in other Mesopotamian texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh, appears to serve as a dividing line between the mythological past and the more historical period that followed. It suggests that the Sumerians viewed their early kings as semi-divine beings, whose reigns were part of a different, almost timeless epoch, distinct from the mortal rulers who came after the flood. Historical kings and mythical continuity. As the list moves into the post-Diluvian era, it begins to include kings who are more recognizable to historians, with reigns that are more plausible in length. Notable among these is Gilgamesh. Despite the more realistic timeframes, the Sumerian king list continues to blend myth and history, creating a continuity that links the human rulers of the historical period to the god kings of the mythological past. The inclusion of both mythical and historical figures in the same document suggests that the Sumerians saw no clear distinction between their myths and their history. For them, the stories of the gods and their ancient rulers were part of the same continuum that shaped their world and their identity as a people. Mysteries and interpretations. The Sumerian king list remains a subject of debate and interpretation. Some scholars believe that the list was a political tool designed to legitimize certain dynasties by connecting them to a divine lineage. Others see it as a compilation of local traditions that were later unified into a single narrative, creating a coherent history for the Sumerian people. The extraordinary lengths of the early reigns, the sudden shift after the flood, and the blending of myth and history all contribute to the enduring mystery of the Sumerian king list. It challenges our understanding of how ancient peoples viewed time, history, and the divine, and it continues to inspire questions about the nature of kingship, memory, and myth in one of the world's earliest civilizations. The Sumerian king list is a fascinating ancient text that records the reigns of kings in Sumer, from the earliest times to the later historical periods. What makes this list particularly intriguing is that it includes the names of rulers who purportedly reigned for extraordinarily long periods, some for tens of thousands of years. Proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis argue that these long reigns might indicate that the early kings were not entirely human, but were instead Anunnaki or their direct descendants. According to this view, the Anunnaki, with their advanced technology or otherworldly origins, might have had significantly longer lifespans than ordinary humans. Mainstream historians and scholars, however, interpret the king list as a mixture of myth and history. They suggest that the exaggerated reigns of early kings reflect the Sumerians' attempts to legitimize their rulers by connecting them to the divine or to a golden age in the distant past. The long reigns might also symbolize the gods' favor or the perceived greatness of these early kings, rather than literal historical fact. The Anunnaki legacy, myth, memory, and modern interpretations. 1. The Anunnaki in modern esotericism and New Age thought. In modern times, the Anunnaki have transcended their origins in Sumerian mythology to become central figures in various esoteric and New Age belief systems. In these interpretations, the Anunnaki are often seen as enlightened beings who once guided humanity and may continue to do so from behind the scenes. Some New Age practitioners believe that the Anunnaki are benevolent spiritual entities who are working to elevate human consciousness and help humanity achieve a new level of spiritual awareness. This perspective often incorporates ideas about ancient wisdom, lost civilizations, and the cyclical nature of time, suggesting that the Anunnaki might return or that their influence continues to shape human destiny. Others view the Anunnaki in a more ambivalent or even sinister light, suggesting that they were or are manipulative beings who sought to control or exploit humanity for their purposes. This interpretation aligns with broader conspiracy theories about secret governments, hidden elites, and manipulation of human society by powerful, unseen forces. Part 3. The Anunnaki and the Future. Speculation and the Quest for Truth. As we move further into the 21st century, the story of the Anunnaki continues to evolve. Advances in archaeology, genetics, and space exploration may one day provide more definitive answers to the questions surrounding these ancient beings. Whether the Anunnaki are ultimately understood as myth, metaphor, or reality, their legacy will continue to inspire curiosity and wonder. The quest to understand the Anunnaki is, in many ways, a reflection of humanity's broader search for meaning, our desire to understand where we come from, who we are, and what our future might hold. As we continue to explore the cosmos and uncover the mysteries of our own past, the Anunnaki will remain a powerful symbol of the unknown, representing both the limits of our knowledge and the infinite possibilities that lie beyond. In conclusion, the Anunnaki, whether as gods, extraterrestrials, or symbols of our ancient origins, occupy a unique and enduring place in the human imagination. Their stories, woven into the fabric of ancient Sumerian mythology, offer a window into the earliest attempts to understand the universe and our place within it. As we continue to uncover the secrets of the past and explore the vast reaches of space, the legend of the Anunnaki reminds us that the quest for knowledge is as old as humanity itself, a journey that spans throughout millennia.